Welcome to Suthichai Live English Podcast. Thailand's political developments in the past few days have been quite stunning, quick-spaced, and at the same time, quite challenging. The People's Party or Prachachon Party, which is the main opposition party with the largest number of MPs in the House, has declared a position which is quite unique. They said they will be willing to vote for a new prime minister to replace Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra under the strict condition that the new government must act as an interim administration committed to dissolving parliament by the end of the year to trigger new elections. This interim government, according to the conditions laid down by the People's Party, would also need to facilitate a referendum on the new constitution and address the Thai-Cambodian dispute. That means that the People's Party is committed to voting for a new prime minister without joining the coalition government, which is quite a rare phenomenon in Thai politics, because the People's Party is afraid of a political deadlock that could offer an excuse to those seeking an unconstitutional way out of the crisis. This, I think, is a very important development in the Thai politics. And in the next few days, we will see how that will play out. Let's get Ping and Pong, my AI's assistants, to unpack the story, because I think this is going to mark a major turning point in Thai politics. Hi, Ping and Pong.
Welcome to Suthichai Live English Podcast. We are Ping and Pom, Suthichai's AI team. Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging headfirst into the intricate and utterly crucial political landscape of Thailand. We've meticulously combed through a stack of sources that illuminate a truly bold, perhaps unprecedented move by the People's Party, also known as Prachachon Party. And we're looking at what this could fundamentally mean for the country's immediate future, especially concerning, its long-standing dance with political stability.
Indeed. Our mission today is to dig deep into these reports, extracting not just the facts, but the most important nuggets of knowledge and strategic insights. We're focusing on the People's Party's unique approach to navigating the current political turbulence.
Right.
This isn't just about typical party maneuvers or, say, coalition arithmetic. It's about understanding a deliberate strategy, one designed to avoid a suffocating political deadlock, and crucially, to sidestep what they pointedly refer to as undesirable options.
Undesirable options.
Exactly. A phrase often code for the kind of non-democratic interventions like, an excuse for a coup that Thailand has tragically experienced in its past.
Okay, let's unpack this intricate situation then. Let's get right to the beating heart of what the People's Party is actually proposing. The central piece of news, this is from July 2nd, 2025, revolves around People's Party leader Nathapong Rongpanyawat and his party's very public stance following Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra being ordered by the Constitutional Court to cease her duties. So after all this upheaval, what's their big, audacious idea to pull Thailand back from the brink, perhaps, of a new crisis?
Well, what's fascinating here is how the People's Party views this potential leadership vacuum. They firmly believe that even if Mrs. Songtarn has to vacate her position,
right,
the political situation doesn't have to descend into an intractable dead end. Their core proposition is, well, it's pretty groundbreaking. They've publicly stated they're prepared to help cast votes for a new prime minister without actually joining the existing coalition government.
Without joining, okay.
Yes. This is a highly significant and strategic maneuver. It allows them to maintain their position within the opposition,
right,
while simultaneously facilitating a path forward. They're aiming to actively prevent the kind of political paralysis that has so often, historically, served as a precursor for, well, non-democratic interventions in Thailand. It's an attempt to break a cycle of instability,
That really is quite a twist, isn't it? Voting for a PM but explicitly not joining the government. It's almost like conditional support from the sidelines, a strategic abstention from direct power while still trying to steer the ship. But this isn't a blank check for just any candidate, is it? I assume there must be some very clear conditions attached to such a politically delicate offer.
Absolutely, and this is precisely where the true strategic depth of their proposal lies. The People's Party has laid down 2 core conditions for extending their support. And these aren't minor stipulations. They are explicitly designed to set the country on a path towards fundamental systemic reform and hopefully long-term stability.
Okay, what are they?
The first condition is that the new government must be an interim government.
Interim, got it.
Right. This isn't about forming a conventional long-term ruling coalition that might get bogged down in internal squabbles or power-sharing deals. It's a temporary arrangement.
And the second.
And secondly, and arguably the most crucial condition, its primary mission must be to prepare for new general elections as swiftly as humanly possible. Hand in hand with that, it must organize a nationwide referendum asking the public about establishing a constituent assembly, a CA tasked with drafting an entirely new constitution.
Wow, okay, a CA.
Yes. This signifies a push for deep foundational change, giving the people a direct say in how their nation is governed.
So it's not just about finding a new face to fill the top office. It's about pushing for a fundamental reset of the entire political system, really. A strategic dismantling of the existing framework, maybe, in favor of building something more stable and, crucially, more reflective of the people's will. It's a direct call for the people to have a say in the foundational rules, almost a refounding moment. Beyond these sort of grand constitutional ambitions and new elections, what immediate practical tasks do they expect this interim government to handle during its temporary tenure?
Well, their approach is surprisingly pragmatic amidst such ambitious constitutional goals. They've also clearly outlined immediate necessities.
Such as?
For instance, it would be expected to address pressing real-world tasks like resolving the ongoing Thai-Cambodian border dispute, aiming to normalize the situation, ensure regional stability.
Okay, practical matters, too.
Exactly. Furthermore, and this is vital for daily governance, it must ensure that the national budget process is not interrupted.
Right, keep the wheels turning.
A smoothly functioning budget is crucial for the economy, for public services, and ultimately for the daily lives of millions. And here's the kicker.
There's more.
The People's Party insists that this interim government must commit to dissolving Parliament by the end of the year, specifically after the Budget Act has successfully passed.
By the end of the year? That's a tight time frame.
It is, and that timing is absolutely key to their strategy, ensuring a swift, decisive transition to new elections, preventing any dragging of feet.
And if these very clear, explicit conditions aren't met, or, say, if a prime minister accepts them but then backs out or stalls, what's the People's Party's leverage here? They command a significant bloc. You said 142 MPs. It's a powerful number in parliamentary arithmetic. How do they intend to enforce this? It sounds like they're putting their credibility right on the line.
They are. Their statement, issued on July 3rd, leaves absolutely no room for ambiguity on this front. It's a powerful declaration of intent. If a new prime minister were to accept these conditions but then, for whatever reason, fails to follow through,
yes,
the People's Party has pledged to use the votes of all 142 of their MPs and every available parliamentary mechanism, think no confidence motions, legislative roadblocks, to immediately overthrow the government that broke its promises to the people.
Wow. Overthrow the government. That's strong language.
It's more than just strong rhetoric. It's a very public line in the sand. It's reminiscent of past instances where perhaps a lack of clear political red lines led to unforeseen consequences. Imagine a political game of chess where one side openly declares its next 5 moves and the consequences. That's the level of transparency and commitment they're aiming for here. It's designed to ensure that if their conditions are taken up, they are genuinely honored, and to prevent any backsliding into political uncertainty, or as they term it, those undesirable options. It's an attempt, maybe, to reestablish a form of political trust, which has often been eroded in Thailand's political landscape.
So this entire strategy isn't merely about choosing a new figurehead. It's being explicitly presented as a democratic escape route from a potential dead end, a deliberate move to prevent what they call the use of power outside of democracy. That sounds like a very direct, pointed message aimed at avoiding coups or other non-democratic interventions,
Exactly.
which, as we sadly know, have been a recurring and painful theme in Thailand's political history, often triggered by prolonged political stalemates.
Precisely. The People's Party articulates a core belief here that in every political crisis, no matter how dire it seems, there's always a democratic way out. They argue compellingly that if politicians consistently keep their word, if parties truly prioritize the public agenda over narrow self-interest.
A big if sometimes.
Well, yes. But their argument is that if this happens, then confidence in the political system and democracy itself will grow stronger, more solid. It will resist the temptations of extra-constitutional solutions. Their conditional support for a new PM, without the baggage of actually joining the government, is framed as a crucial, perhaps innovative, means to achieve a stable government that truly possesses public legitimacy.
A government based on merit, not just deals.
That's the idea. A government, they argue, formed on merit and capability, rather than merely on political bargaining, horse trading, or short-term alliances. An approach aiming to create a government that can effectively address the country's pressing problems, economic, social security, without getting bogged down, setting a new precedent for crisis resolution.
This whole conditional approach makes a lot more sense when we broaden our view and look at the larger political picture, specifically how other opposition parties are aligning. And that brings us to another highly significant development from July 3rd, 2025, just a day after the People's Party's announcement, the pivotal meeting of the opposition parties. This is where the plot really thickens, doesn't it? Reveals a broader, potentially game-changing shift.
Indeed, this meeting was far from just a formality. Nathapong Ruongkanyawat, in his capacity as opposition leader, chaired the first meeting of opposition party leaders since the current parliamentary session opened. The atmosphere, from reports, was charged with a sense of urgency. This meeting was fundamentally about discussing the strategic direction of their collective work as a unified opposition front.
A unified front.
Yes. The shared understanding that the country was in crisis served as a powerful unifying motivator for this, well, unprecedented level of coordination among parties that might have previously seen themselves more as competitors.
And who exactly was at this meeting? Were there any surprising new faces joining the opposition ranks, or was it largely the usual suspects just reaffirming alliances?
There was a very notable and impactful new face present. The Bumjathai Party, led by Anutin Charnvirakul, officially joined the opposition bloc.
Bumjathai. Wow, okay. That is significant.
It marks a truly significant shift in parliamentary dynamics, as Bumjathai has previously been a key player in governing coalitions.
Right.
Other crucial parties present included Palan Prakarath, Thai Sang Thai, and the Fair Party. What's particularly striking from the reports is that leaders from all five parties coordinated hand in hand even before the meeting officially began.
Really? Beforehand?
Yes, indicating a tangible, concerted effort towards unity and a shared purpose in opposition, transcending their individual party lines. This isn't just a loose affiliation. It appears to be a deliberate, coordinated front.
That's fascinating. Given the diverse ideologies and, let's face it, sometimes competing interests often found within opposition groups, what was the general vibe of this gathering? Were they all singing from the same hymn sheet immediately, or were they still navigating differences, trying to forge this united front out of disparate elements? It's often tough to achieve real cohesion.
Well, Nathapong himself articulated the explicit objective: to find common ground to push forward, especially given the nation's multifaceted crisis. He laid down a crucial principle of mutual respect, emphasizing that distinct positions or even fundamental differences between the individual opposition parties would not be interfered with.
That sounds key for keeping everyone on board.
Paramount, I'd say, for maintaining cohesion among such an ideologically diverse group. Each party leader present affirmed their commitment to constructive opposition. Anutin, for instance, expressed genuine warmth at Bumjathai's welcome into the bloc and pledged his party's full, rigorous scrutiny of the government. Representatives from Palang Prakareth, Thai Sang Thai, and the Fair Party also echoed this sentiment of working together, strengthening their collective role. Kunying Sudarat of Thai Sang Thai, a very seasoned political figure, specifically highlighted the increased strength of the opposition with Bumjathai's inclusion. She noted its particular importance in addressing the nation's economic, social, and political crises. So there's a strategic understanding that a united front is more effective in a time of perceived national peril.
This new alignment raises a really important question about leverage. How does this newfound unity among opposition parties, especially with a significant player like Bumjathai joining, How does that impact the People's Party's very specific conditional support strategy for a new PM? Does it give their conditions more weight, make them harder for potential PM candidates to ignore?
Oh, it absolutely amplifies the collective voice and political leverage of the opposition. While each party unequivocally maintains its specific ideology and policy positions.
Sure, they're still distinct parties.
Exactly. But their willingness to coordinate on scrutinizing the government and finding common ground creates a far more formidable front in Parliament. This newly unified opposition could significantly increase the pressure on any potential new prime minister to seriously consider and perhaps even accept the People's Party's rather stringent conditions.
Conditions for the interim government, the new elections.
Precisely. Any prospective leader would know they aren't just dealing with the People's Party alone, but with a strong, broad, and coordinated group ready to hold them accountable. Accountable if promises regarding that swift return to the polls and constitutional reform are not honored.
So it makes that threat.
It makes the threat of overthrowing the government by parliamentary means, as stated by the People's Party, much more credible and difficult to dismiss. It transforms it, potentially, from a singular party's pledge into a collective parliamentary force.
So let's bring this back to the listener. What does this all mean for you following these intricate political chess moves? Why should we care about these specific conditions or these shifts in opposition alliances? How does this impact the broader trajectory of Thai politics and ultimately the lives of ordinary citizens?
Well, this deep dive truly illuminates a critical juncture for Thailand's democracy. It's a fascinating case study in crisis management within a democratic framework. The People's Party strategy isn't merely about power dynamics or who sits in the PM seat. It's a direct, publicly articulated proposal designed to prevent that kind of prolonged political paralysis and uncertainty. The kind that has, in the past, often regrettably led to those extra-constitutional, undemocratic interventions.
Right, trying to break that cycle.
Exactly. By insisting on an interim government with a very specific, time-bound mandate, new elections, and constitutional reform via public referendum, they are actively attempting to steer the country towards a more stable, legitimate path, and ultimately more democratic path. It's a bold attempt to break that cycle by placing direct agency back into the hands of the public through a popular vote on the nation's foundational document. It's an interesting test, really, of how much a single party, through clear conditions, can influence the very structure of governance.
It highlights a powerful idea, doesn't it, that sometimes the most effective solution to a deep political deadlock isn't always forming a grand, potentially unstable coalition, one that might lead to further bargaining, infighting, maybe gridlock. Instead, it could be this highly targeted, temporary government with a very specific, time-limited, and ultimately profoundly democratic mission. Return power to the people, swiftly and cleanly. It sort of redefines what stability might look like in a crisis, shifting from a perhaps shaky long-term alliance to a short-term, clearly defined, democratically oriented mandate.
It's certainly a creative approach.
Yes, aiming to keep democratic principles paramount.
Exactly. And the visible unity among these otherwise diverse opposition parties further underscores a growing emphasis on parliamentary checks and balances. It reflects a stated desire to work together for national stability and the public benefit, even when significant ideological differences persist. It's a compelling case study in how political actors can actively define and then pursue what they genuinely see as the democratic way out of a crisis, explicitly naming and trying to avoid those undesirable options. This singular focus on process, on public mandate, and on a transparent, time-bound path forward is what makes this particular political move so impactful and worth dissecting. It sets a precedent, if successful, for how future stalemates might be resolved without resorting to past, less democratic solutions.
This has been a truly insightful deep dive into the complex nuances of Thai politics. It reveals layers of strategy and intent. The People's Party's bold move, viewed alongside the strengthening and unification of the opposition front, presents a really compelling narrative. A narrative for how profound political crises might be resolved entirely within democratic frameworks, proactively aiming to bypass those critical stalemates and non-democratic solutions.
Indeed. It leaves us with a provocative thought, though, a question for us all to consider as events unfold. If the People's Party's conditions are ultimately accepted, and if a new interim government is formed on this very specific basis,
Yes.
what will be the true test of its commitment to dissolving Parliament by the end of the year, especially if political circumstances become more favorable or if powerful vested interests emerge?
Will they stick to the plan?
And what profound long-term implications might hew A rapid new election, coupled with a public referendum on a new constitution, truly have for the enduring stability, the democratic evolution, and indeed the very future trajectory of Thailand. Something for us to mull over and watch very closely.
Fascinating questions for us to keep watching as this story unfolds. Thanks for following Suthichai Live English Podcast. We are Suthichai's AI team. I am Ping.
And I am Pom.
So thank you very much, Ping and Pong. We will continue to monitor the latest developments in Thai crisis, political crisis. Please follow Suthichai Live English Podcast on Suthichai Live on a daily basis. Until then, bye-bye.